The New York Times now explicitly asking, should Biden really run again? Joining me now, Reason Magazine's Matt Welch and Liz Wolfe. Matt is also co-host of The Fifth Column, as you know, and comes on with his other buddies occasionally. And Liz is co-host of Just Asking Questions. Matt and Liz, welcome back to the show. It is getting pretty interesting. I don't want anybody to fall for, David Weiss, he's tough. These are tough charges. He was forced after he'd been humiliated and then tried to attack those whistleblowers. But good that what was left of the charges against Hunter have now been filed. And yeah, this could be very embarrassing and tough for this White House to deal with, Matt.
And I presume also that in the process of both the indictment and whatever prosecution, to the extent that they actually go through with it and it isn't a plea bargained away, that we will see some information about how he got the money to begin with. Because if you're going to be spending $683,000 on payouts, various women in a 4-year span, first of all, that's aspirational. Second of all, why do you need the extra $189,000 for adult entertainment? I figure like you got to choose a lane one of these ways. But that money had to come from somewhere. And you're absolutely right. And everybody's right when they point out that Hunter Biden wouldn't be out there necessarily earning that money through his talents alone. It's all because of his last name. And so there will be hopefully some discovery of that. That's where I think there's two parts where there's an American public interest in this. I'm not generally moved by people by tax avoidance cases, being a crazy libertarian. On some level, Hunter Biden, porn, drugs, tax avoidance, libertarian hero. What's not to like? But the interest for all of us is, one, is the double standards that you point out, but two, precisely that. To what extent has he, in the process of absolutely cashing in on his family name and his father's connections, including when his father's vice president, to what extent did that relate to Joe Biden and American policy? I presumed when this first came up before the last election that it didn't immediately make sense that this would affect Joe Biden, like it would change the way that he conducted himself in foreign policy. But I think we've seen a lot already through the reporting that there's more there that's interesting to look at. I want that looked at. And if this trial doesn't get there, I hope that various congressional investigations and committees get there, because that is where our real interest lies, in addition to making sure that you can't just get away with doing all kinds of crazy nonsense just because you're the president's son.
What are the odds he becomes the Libertarian Party's candidate for president?
Well,
oh my
God, he's
God,
a libertarian hero nowadays, right?
Please, one of you run if that starts percolating. So here's the thing. I mean, watching the Hunter Biden trial, if that's where this goes, as opposed to a plea, will be interesting. I mean, and certainly we would cover it if any president's son got indicted on multiple felonies like this. But you won't be hearing anything in that trial about Joe Biden. I mean, you will not be hearing anything about it because David Weiss and this DOJ have made sure of it. And so the only lane in which you're going to hear anything about Joe Biden is the Congressional House investigation and potential impeachment if it advances to an actual impeachment against him. And that can be dismissed as political. And, likely, I mean, they certainly don't have the votes necessarily even for an actual impeachment, never mind for a conviction, which would have to happen in the Senate. So they've protected Joe Biden. That's really the bottom line, Liz.
Well, the other issue is the pass that the mainstream media is giving Hunter Biden and Joe Biden in their coverage of this. I mean, even just really allowing, I was reading so many different write-ups of this morning, and allowing that Hunter Biden lawyer line about his last name and how he would be treated differently if he had a different one. I don't know. I mean, that is such a canned answer from a lawyer. And I am surprised that we haven't seen more mainstream media pushback on that. To me, that shows the value in more and more independent journalists really beginning to cast a little bit more attention on this type of thing. I mean, this is a huge, glaring double standard. And also, what a sad thing. This says something really awful about the state of American politics that, Trump is obviously embroiled in all of these different legal battles. And then now Joe Biden's son is too. Like, can we not just get like a normal candidate for president who's available, who's not just constantly breaking the freaking law?
It's so true. Like, where are the decent people? I actually think you looked up at that stage the other night, like Ron DeSantis, maybe he didn't resonate entirely with people in his campaign, but that's a decent man. That's a decent man. He's got a wife. He's got kids. There haven't been any real allegations against him whatsoever, that he's not a decent person. Like, why can't we have that? No one's perfect, but it's so frustrating. Like these are grifters in the White House right now. This is a grifting family trying to get rich off of us. And it's a lie, Matt, that if you or I did not pay $1.4 million in federal taxes over 4 years, the IRS would not come for us. We would get pursued, audited, and charged 100%.
Oh man, I'm picturing the Megyn Kelly trial here for unpaid taxes and the lurid headlines. I mean, that media double standard. I mean, think about it. Going back to the Hunter Biden laptops story. How many journalists cheered on, like literally cheered on the suppression of that story last time around? There's like the media, the newspapers of my youth, which had a great time with Billy Carter back in the day. It would be unrecognizable now. Hunter Biden, just as a character, just as comic relief, as a human walking embarrassment.
Hey, that's my favorite artist you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a really great NFT artist.
Real talent.
Like if you're not even interested
or Roger Clinton.
Roger Clinton. Yeah. I mean, we used to have a good time poking fun at presidential families, but actually to your question about, why can't we get decent people? We're part of the blame of this. I mean, why did we get George Santos, who again is a great comic relief, at least, and is doing some really wonderful work over there on Cameo these days. But the reason that we got George Santos is because Democrats absolutely bungled the basic governance of New York City. All the suburban congressional districts went Republican, and they didn't even know who they were voting for. They just didn't want to vote for a Democrat, which I totally get. But when we're in a two-party system and you just need to express your revulsion of the other guy, you don't care. You just don't about what is wrong with the guy that you have. Joe Biden was a terrible presidential candidate in 1987. So bad that, he had to bow out. And it was embarrassing how much he plagiarized his own life story from British politicians. By the time he came around as the only person who could sort of smite Donald Trump, people just say, you know what? Who cares if he sits and at every single time that he's grieving with a family, he makes up stuff about his own family tragedies and where he was when this thing happened.
His son being killed in war.
His son being killed in war. His uncle, giving him a Purple Heart and he didn't want to accept it. None of this is true. He does this all the time. I mean, if you go to PolitiFact/Joe Biden, even though journalists don't make a big deal out of it, he says banana stuff all the time. And journalists generally don't care about it too much because he is a vehicle for smiting down Donald Trump. So it's our polarization and hatred of the other side that allows us to look the other way, not just when people themselves are bad, but when there's lifetime of corruption. If you're in public service and government elected official positions for 50 years, as Joe Biden has been, so as old as Liz's parents, he's been in public service. Yes, your family is going to be getting rich off your name. That's normal. That happens with all kinds of politicians, and it shouldn't be something that we just sort of accept as the status quo. It's disgusting, actually.
We also have this huge issue with amnesia, right? Like you brought up the plagiarism scandal. Okay, I bet a lot of people my age, that's not even on their radar, right? But that's something that, in my view, should be pretty disqualifying from public office. I mean, I'm in favor of mercy and redemption, generally speaking, when applied to, private individuals. Nobody should be canceled for something they did 10 years ago or what have you. But I'm sorry, we're talking about somebody seeking the highest office in all the land. I'm a little bit concerned about what that says about their character. If they're plagiarizing something and then we just sort of collectively forget about it and allow them to continue to have this massively successful political career. I think we should hold elected officials to a higher standard.
And our public officials, frankly. But it doesn't matter. If you're a Democrat, nothing matters. Just this past 2 weeks, they had the Kennedy Center honors the other night where Joe Biden couldn't say Dionne Warwick. He kept calling her Diane, and he didn't know who Barry Gibb was. He kept calling him Billy. You know who else was honored? At the Kennedy Center. You know who else? Billy Crystal. Just FYI, do you know who once opened up the Academy Awards in full blackface? Billy Crystal. Ooh. Billy Crystal. And do you know who's going to be hosting the Academy Awards this year? Jimmy Kimmel. Do you know who's worn blackface repeatedly and spoken in an inner city sort of urban accent saying she needs to darn those socks? Jimmy Kimmel as Oprah, as a fat-suited, black-faced darning socks Oprah. Now, if you are of the left, that's fine. If you are of the right and happen to just say, hey, people used to wear blackface and nobody freaked out about it, you get fired, right? I could speak to that firsthand. I never wore blackface, never. But I'm just saying, it's fine. Opened the Academy Awards in blackface, wore blackface repeatedly, and now hosting the Academy Awards. It's the same thing for Joe Biden. You can plagiarize and get forced out of a presidential race and then become, what is plagiarism? It's dishonesty. It's unethical. He became president, and what did he do? More dishonest and unethical things. If you look at the charges against his son, particularly relating to Burisma, the Chinese, etc.
I think that Jimmy Kimmel should run for office in Virginia. You know, they've really indicated that they're totally fine with their politicians doing that. So maybe he has a shot there.
I'm just stuck on Billy Gibb, which you broke that news to me, Megyn. And there's just no way that a human being can mistake Barry Gibb, a titan of songwriting and a lion of a man, for Billy Gibb.
It's the Christmas and holiday season, everyone. Time for gift giving, parties with friends and family, and getting compliments everywhere you go, looking years younger thanks to Genucel. From now through Christmas, Genucel's most popular package is more than 70% off at Genucel.com. Treat yourself and a loved one to the absolute best skincare in the world. See those troubling forehead wrinkles, fine lines, skin redness, pesky bags and puffiness, and even a sagging jawline disappear with Genucel's most popular collection. With its immediate effects product, see results in less than 12 hours, guaranteed, or you get your money back. Plus, included in every one of their most popular packages is a free hyaluronic acid serum. Totally great. You need this, especially this time of year, for skin hydration that will restore your youthful appearance. Visit Genucel.com/MK60 right now, and you just enter my special promo, MK60, to get an additional 10% off your entire order. Every order today instantly upgraded to free express shipping. Genucel.com/MK60. That's GENUCEL.com/MK60. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.